The air in the small dining room felt heavy, like the calm before a thunderstorm. Adanna sat at the table, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of a chipped ceramic plate. The aroma of jollof rice lingered, but the meal had gone cold. Victor, her husband of 8 years, hadn't touched his food. His eyes were glued to his phone, the screen's glow casting sharp shadows across his angular face. He typed furiously, his lips twitching into a faint smirk. "Victor," Adanna ventured softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is everything okay? You've been distant." He didn't look up. "What do you want, Adanna?" "I'm busy." She swallowed, her throat tight. "It's just, you've been coming home late. And you're always on your phone. I'm worried." Victor's fingers paused, and for a moment, the room was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. He set the phone down, face down, with deliberate care. His dark eyes met hers, cold and unyielding. "Worried? About what?" "You sit at home all day, baking your little cakes, while I'm out there keeping this family afloat. Maybe you should worry about contributing something for once." Adanna flinched, her heart sinking. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. Victor had always been sharp-tongued, but this felt different, crueler. Before she could speak, he stood, his chair scraping against the tiled floor. "I'm going to bed," he said, snatching his phone. "Clean this up." As he disappeared down the hallway, Adanna sat frozen, her hands trembling. She glanced at the framed photo on the wall. Her, Victor, and their 2 children, Kamsi and Ezra, smiling at a beach 3 years ago. That Victor felt like a stranger now. Later that night, as she washed the dishes, she heard his voice from the bedroom. It was low, almost a hiss, but the words sliced through the quiet house like a knife. "She won't be a problem much longer," he said. "Just trust me." Adanna's hands froze in the soapy water. Her heart pounded. Who was he talking to? She tiptoed toward the bedroom door, but it clicked shut before she could hear more. Standing in the dark hallway, she felt a chill settle into her bones. Something was coming, and it wasn't good. The next day was Victor's 35th birthday, and Adanna woke with a flicker of hope. Maybe a gesture, something from the heart, could bridge the growing chasm between them. She'd spent the last of her savings, money she'd set aside for Kamsi's school shoes, on ingredients for a coconut cake, Victor's favorite. She'd been up since dawn, measuring flour, cracking eggs, and humming softly to keep her nerves at bay. "Mommy, is Daddy gonna love the cake?" Ezra asked, his 6-year-old eyes wide as he watched her pipe icing onto the cake's surface. Adanna smiled, brushing a curl from his forehead. "I hope so, sweetheart. It's made with love." Kamsi, 8 and ever the skeptic, folded her arms. "He didn't eat the last one you made. He said it was too sweet." Adanna's smile faltered, but she forced a laugh. "Well, this one's extra special. You'll see." By evening, the house was ready. The dining table was set with the cake as the centerpiece, its golden sponge glistening under the light. Kamsi and Ezra wore their best clothes, their faces scrubbed clean. Adanna had even put on a dress, a simple blue one Victor once said made her look beautiful. The clock ticked past 7, then 8. At 8:30, headlights swept across the living room window, and the kids bolted to the door. "Daddy's home," Ezra shouted, bouncing on his toes. Adanna's heart lifted as she smoothed her dress and stood by the table. The front door swung open, and Victor stepped inside, followed by a woman. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with sleek hair extensions and a tight red dress that hugged her curves. Her heels clicked on the floor, and her perfume, sharp and expensive, filled the room. Adanna's smile froze. "Victor, who's this?" Victor didn't meet her eyes. He tossed his keys onto the counter and gestured to the woman. "This is Bianca. She's a colleague." Bianca smirked, her glossy lips curling as she scanned the room. Her gaze landed on the cake, and she let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, how quaint. Did you make that yourself?" Adanna's cheeks burned, but she nodded. "Yes. It's for Victor's birthday." Victor finally looked at the cake, his expression a mix of disdain and amusement. "Did you really think I'd eat that?" he said, his voice dripping with scorn. "Bianca and I are going out to celebrate properly. Somewhere with class." The words hit like a slap. Adanna's vision blurred, but she held herself steady, aware of Kamsi and Ezra watching from the corner. Ezra's lip trembled, and Kamsi's small hand reached for his. "Victor," Adanna said, her voice shaking, "this is your family. We did this for you." He laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Family? Adanna, let's not pretend. You're a burden, and I'm done carrying you." Bianca stepped closer, looping her arm through Victor's. "Come on, babe. Let's not waste the night here." As they turned to leave, Ezra's voice piped up, small but clear. "Daddy, don't you want cake?" Victor didn't even glance back. The door slammed shut, and the room fell silent. Adanna sank into a chair, her hands covering her face as tears spilled over. Kamsi climbed onto her lap, wrapping her arms around her mother's neck. "It's okay, Mommy," she whispered. "We'll eat the cake. It's the best one yet." Adanna pulled her children close, her heart breaking and hardening all at once. She wouldn't let them see her crumble. The next morning, Adanna woke to the sound of Victor banging on the bedroom door. She'd slept on the couch with the kids, unable to face the bed they once shared. She opened the door, and his face was a mask of impatience. "Pack your things," he said flatly. "You and the kids are moving to the shed." Adanna blinked, certain she'd misheard. "The shed? Victor, what are you talking about?" He stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. "Since you're jobless and not contributing, you don't get to take up space in my house. Bianca's moving in. I need peace, and you're in the way." Her stomach churned. "Victor, that shed is barely standing. It's got no electricity, no water." "Then fix it," he snapped. "Or leave. Your choice." Adanna's mind raced. She had no money, no job, nowhere to go. Her parents were gone, and her siblings were scattered across the country, struggling themselves. The shed, as miserable as it was her only option, for now. "Fine," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "We'll go." Victor's lips curled into a smug smile. "Good. Be out by noon." The shed was worse than she remembered. Tucked behind the house, it was a crumbling wooden structure with a rusted tin roof and a dirt floor. Cobwebs clung to the corners, and the air smelled of mildew. Adanna stood in the doorway, clutching a bag of clothes, while Kamsi and Ezra peeked inside. "It's like a haunted house," Kamsi said, her voice wavering. Adanna forced a smile. "It's an adventure, Cam. We'll make it ours." By noon, they'd moved their few belongings, clothes, a mattress, and a box of kitchen supplies, into the shed. Victor watched from the back porch, Bianca at his side, her laughter ringing out as Adanna carried a bucket of cleaning supplies. "Look at her," Bianca called, loud enough to be heard. "Like a little maid. So cute." Adanna ignored her, focusing on the task ahead. She swept the floor, scrubbed the walls, and patched a hole in the roof with a tarp. Her hands blistered, but she kept going, fueled by a quiet, burning resolve. That night, the shed was dark, lit only by a single candle Adanna had found in a drawer. The kids sat on the mattress, wrapped in a blanket, their eyes wide in the flickering light. Adanna knelt beside them, a worn copy of the Lion King storybook in her hands. "Simba looked up at the stars," she read, her voice soft but steady, "and heard his father's voice in the wind." Ezra snuggled closer, his head resting on her arm. "Mommy, this is like camping, right?" Adanna's throat tightened, but she nodded. "Exactly, Ezra. Our own little campsite." Kamsi, always the perceptive one, wasn't so easily convinced. "Why does Daddy hate us now?" she asked, her voice small but piercing. Adanna set the book down, pulling Kamsi into her lap. "He doesn't hate you, sweetheart. He's lost right now. But we're not. We've got each other, and that's stronger than anything." Kamsi's eyes glistened, but she nodded. Okay, Mommy. As Adanna continued reading, her mind wandered. The shed was cold, the walls creaking with every gust of wind. Her savings were gone, and Victor hadn't left her a dime. But she couldn't let her children see her fear. She finished the story, tucked them in, and blew out the candle. In the darkness, she let a single tear fall, whispering to herself, "I'll find a way." The next morning, Adanna woke to the sound of laughter. She stepped outside the shed and saw Bianca on the back porch, sipping wine despite the early hour. Victor was nowhere in sight, likely at work. Bianca's eyes locked onto Adanna, and her lips curved into a cruel smile. "Well, look at you," Bianca called, her voice dripping with mockery. "Settling into your little shack? Don't worry, I'll take care of Victor now. You just keep playing house in there." Adanna's fists clenched, but she kept her face neutral. "I'm not playing, Bianca. I'm surviving." Bianca laughed, tossing her hair. "Surviving? Honey, you're barely existing. Look at you, dirty clothes, no money. You're nothing without him." Adanna took a step forward, her voice low but firm. "I was something before Victor, and I'll be something after him. You'll see." Bianca's smile faltered for a split second, but she recovered quickly, raising her glass in a mock toast. "To your dreams, shed girl." Adanna turned away, her heart pounding. She wouldn't let Bianca's words break her. Back in the shed, she rummaged through the box of kitchen supplies Victor had tossed out. At the bottom, she found a half-empty bag of flour and a carton of eggs he'd forgotten to throw away. Her hands trembled as she held them. Baking had always been her escape, her joy. Maybe it could be more. "Mommy, what are you doing?" Ezra asked, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Adanna smiled, a spark igniting in her chest. "I'm making us something special, Ezra. Just for us." She mixed the flour, eggs, and a bit of sugar, her hands moving with practiced ease. The shed filled with the warm scent of coconut bread, and for the first time in days, Adanna felt a flicker of hope. She didn't know it yet, but that loaf would change everything. The shed was stifling, the morning sun turning the tin roof into a radiator. Adanna knelt on the dirt floor, her hands sifting through the box of discarded kitchen supplies Victor had deemed worthless. Her fingers brushed against a coarse burlap sack, and she pulled it out, her heart skipping a beat. A half-empty bag of flour, slightly damp but salvageable. Beside it, a carton of eggs, 6 left, miraculously uncracked. She stared at them, her mind racing. "Mommy, what's that?" Ezra asked, peering over her shoulder, his small hands clutching a toy truck. Adanna forced a smile, brushing sweat from her brow. "It's a treasure, Ezra. Something to make us happy today." Kamsi, sitting cross-legged on the mattress, looked skeptical. "Happy? With flour? Mommy, we don't even have a stove." Adanna's gaze softened as she met her daughter's eyes. "We don't need a stove, Cam. We've got the old charcoal grill outside, and we've got each other. That's enough." Kamsi frowned but didn't argue. Adanna's mind was already elsewhere, memories of her mother's kitchen flooding back. Laughter, the scent of coconut bread, the warmth of creation. Baking had always been her refuge, a way to pour love into something tangible. Maybe, just maybe, it could be more. She carried the ingredients to the rickety table she'd salvaged from the trash. The grill was rusty, but it would do. She mixed the flour, eggs, sugar, and a splash of coconut milk she'd found in a forgotten can. Her hands moved with quiet precision, kneading the dough as the kids watched, mesmerized. "Mommy, it smells like Grandma's house," Ezra said, his nose twitching as the dough began to bake over the makeshift grill. Adanna laughed, the sound surprising even herself. "It does, doesn't it? This is for us, okay? Our little secret." As the loaf baked, golden and fragrant, Adanna felt a spark she hadn't felt in weeks. It wasn't just bread, it was defiance, a refusal to let Victor's cruelty define her. She sliced the warm loaf, handing pieces to Kamsi and Ezra. Their eyes lit up with the first bite, and for a moment, the shed felt like a home. "Mommy, this is the best thing ever," Kamsi said, her mouth full. Can we make more? Adanna's heart swelled. Maybe we will, Cam. Maybe we will. The next morning, Adanna woke to a sharp knock on the shed's splintered door. She opened it to find Mrs. Lola, the nosy but kind-hearted neighbor, standing there with a basket of oranges. Lola's graying hair was tucked under a bright headscarf, and her eyes twinkled with curiosity. "Adanna, what is that smell?" Lola asked, sniffing the air. "It's been driving me crazy since yesterday. Like heaven decided to move next door." Adanna hesitated, then stepped aside to reveal the small table, where another loaf of coconut bread sat cooling. "It's just something I made. For the kids." Lola's eyebrows shot up. "Just for the kids? Girl, this smells like a bakery. Let me try a piece." Before Adanna could protest, Lola marched in, sliced a corner of the loaf, and popped it into her mouth. Her eyes widened, and she let out a dramatic moan. "Adanna, this is divine. You made this in here? With what magic?" Adanna laughed, her cheeks flushing. "No magic. Just flour, eggs, and a lot of hope." Lola leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Listen, I'm hosting my church group tomorrow. 10 women, all with big mouths and bigger appetites. Can you make 2 more loaves? I'll pay you." Adanna froze, the words sinking in. "Pay me? Lola, I don't even have a proper oven." "Then use that grill or whatever you've got," Lola said, waving a hand. "This bread is worth it. Say, 5,000 naira for 2 loaves." Adanna's breath caught. 5,000 naira could buy milk, rice, maybe even new shoes for Ezra. She nodded, her voice barely audible. "Okay, I'll do it." Lola clapped her hands. "That's my girl. Deliver them by noon tomorrow, and don't skimp on that coconut magic." As Lola left, Adanna sank onto the mattress, her hands trembling. She looked at Kamsi and Ezra, who'd been listening from the corner. "Did you hear that?" she said, her voice shaking with excitement. "We're in business." Ezra grinned, waving his toy truck. "Can I help, Mommy?" "You bet," Adanna said, pulling him into a hug. "We're a team now." That night, she worked by candlelight, mixing dough and tending the grill. Her muscles ached, but her spirit soared. This was more than bread, it was a lifeline. The next day, Adanna delivered the 2 loaves to Lola's house, her heart pounding as she knocked on the door. The shed's aroma clung to her clothes, a comforting reminder of her work. Lola greeted her with a wide smile, ushering her inside where 10 women sat around a living room cluttered with teacups and laughter. "Ladies, this is Adanna, the genius behind the bread," Lola announced, holding up the loaves like trophies. The women oohed and awed, slicing into the bread with eager hands. Adanna stood awkwardly by the door, clutching her empty basket. A tall woman with a bright gelly took a bite and gasped. "This is better than anything I've had in Lagos," she said. "Where's your shop?" Adanna blushed. "It's not a shop. I made it in my shed." The room fell silent for a moment, then erupted in questions. "A shed? How? With what?" Adanna told them the truth, about the grill, the flour, the desperation that fueled her. The women listened, their faces softening. "You're a warrior," said a woman named Chioma, her voice thick with admiration. "I want 3 loaves for my book club next week. Can you do it?" Another woman, Esther, chimed in. "I'll take 2 for my office. My boss loves coconut bread." By the time Adanna left, she had orders for 15 loaves, payable in advance. She walked home in a daze, her basket heavier with cash than it had ever been. Back in the shed, she counted the money, 12,000 naira. Enough for groceries, candles, maybe even a second-hand fan. "Mommy, are we rich now?" Ezra asked, his eyes wide. Adanna laughed, ruffling his hair. "Not rich, sweetheart. But we're fighting. And that's something." That night, she baked again, the shed glowing with candlelight. Word was spreading. and Adanna felt a fire growing inside her. Victor could take her home, her dignity, her security, but he couldn't take this. Over the next week, the shed transformed. Adanna scrubbed every inch, her hands raw from bleach and determination. She painted the walls with leftover white paint from Lola's garage, turning the dingy space into something bright. The rickety table became her workbench, and she rigged a tarp over the grill to shield it from sudden rain. Kamsi and Ezra helped, sweeping the floor and stacking empty crates into makeshift shelves. "It's like a real kitchen now," Kamsi said, admiring the setup. "Can we call it something?" Adanna paused, a flour-dusted hand on her hip. "You're right, Cam. It needs a name." She looked around the shed, small, sturdy, a symbol of her refusal to break. "Shed Sweets." "How's that?" Ezra clapped. "Shed Sweets. I love it." Adanna smiled, but her mind was on the orders piling up. Lola's church friends had spread the word, and now neighbors, co-workers, even strangers were knocking. She baked through the night, sleeping in snatches during the day. Her hands blistered, but every loaf sold was a step toward freedom. One afternoon, Mrs. Lola stopped by with a gift, a small chalkboard sign. "For your bakery," she said, winking. "Write your menu on it." Adanna hugged her, tears prickling her eyes. "Lola, I don't know how to thank you." "Just keep baking," Lola said. "And maybe save me a loaf." Adanna hung the sign outside the shed, writing "Shed Sweets, coconut bread, 500 naira," in careful chalk. Passers-by stopped to read it, some laughing at the idea of a shed bakery, others intrigued. By evening, she'd sold 6 loaves to curious neighbors. "This is just the beginning," she whispered to herself, watching the sunset. "Shed Sweets is alive." 2 weeks later, Adanna's fledgling business was buzzing. She'd bought more flour, sugar, and a second-hand gas burner with her earnings, easing the strain on the grill. The shed was a hive of activity, with Kamsi wrapping loaves in paper and Ezra drawing smiley faces on the packaging. Adanna had even printed flyers, slipping them under doors and handing them out at the market. One evening, Victor stormed into the backyard, a crumpled flyer in his fist. Adanna was kneading dough, her sleeves rolled up, when he kicked the shed door open. Kamsi and Ezra froze, clutching each other. "Shed Sweets." Victor sneered, waving the flyer. "What's this nonsense? You're embarrassing me, Adanna." Adanna wiped her hands on her apron, standing tall. "It's not nonsense, Victor. It's my business." He laughed, a cruel barking sound that echoed in the small space. "Business? You're selling bread from a shack. What's next, gutter gourmet? You're a joke." Adanna's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "Maybe I am. But I'm feeding my kids. Can you say the same?" Victor's face darkened, but before he could respond, Bianca appeared at the door, her arms crossed. "Victor, why are you wasting time here? Let her play baker. It's pathetic." Adanna met Bianca's gaze, her voice steady. "Pathetic or not, I'm not the one begging for scraps. This shed is more than you'll ever understand." Bianca's eyes narrowed, but Victor grabbed her arm, pulling her away. "Let's go," he muttered. "She's not worth it." As they left, Adanna heard Bianca's voice, sharp and whining. "Victor, you Francese's been acting up lately. You're always broke. When are you getting a new car?" Adanna stood in the shed, her heart pounding but her resolve unbroken. Victor's laughter stung, but it also fueled her. He thought she was a joke? She'd show him. Shed Sweets wasn't just a bakery, it was her rebellion, her redemption. And it was only getting started. The shed was alive with the hum of Adanna's second-hand gas burner, the air thick with the sweet scent of coconut bread. Adanna worked tirelessly, her hands floured and her apron streaked with dough. Orders were pouring in. Neighbors, church groups, even a small grocery store had asked for samples. Kamsi and Ezra helped where they could, wrapping loaves in brown paper and giggling as they drew smiley faces on each package. "Mommy, we're gonna need a bigger shed soon," Ezra said, balancing a stack of wrapped loaves. Adanna laughed, ruffling his hair. One step at a time, sweetheart. Let's keep this shed happy for now. The shed, now proudly called Shed Sweets, was a beacon of hope. The chalkboard sign outside listed coconut bread, 500 naira, and newly added mini cakes, 200 naira. Adanna had painted the exterior with bright yellow leftover paint from Mrs. Lola, making it impossible to miss. Passers-by stopped to stare, some snapping photos of the quirky setup. That afternoon, a new order came through. A handwritten note slipped under the shed door. Adanna unfolded it, her brow furrowing. 50 loaves by Friday. Deliver to Café Aroma, 12 Adebayo Street. Payment on delivery. No name, no phone number. Just an address and a promise of 25,000 naira. It was the biggest order she'd ever received, enough to buy a proper oven or pay for Kamsi's school fees. Kamsi, look at this, Adanna said, showing her daughter the note. 50 loaves. Can we do it? Kamsi's eyes widened. That's a lot, Mommy. But you're the best baker ever, so yeah. Adanna smiled, but doubt gnawed at her. The gas burner could handle 10 loaves at a time, but 50 would mean round-the-clock baking. Still, she couldn't say no, not when the money could change their lives. She spent the next 2 days mixing, kneading, and baking, sleeping in snatches on the mattress while the kids kept watch over the burner. On Friday, Adanna loaded the loaves into a borrowed wheelbarrow, her arms aching but her spirit soaring. She pushed it across town to Café Aroma, a chic spot with glass windows and trendy patrons. The manager, a wiry man named Tund, greeted her with a grin. "You're the Shed Sweets lady?" he asked, eyeing the wheelbarrow. "Heard about you from Lola's church crew. Let's see the goods." Adanna unwrapped a loaf, and Tund took a bite, his eyes lighting up. "This is gold. We want a weekly contract, 20 loaves to start. You in?" Adanna's heart raced. "A contract? Yes, I'm in." As she left with 25,000 naira in her pocket, she felt lighter than air. Shed Sweets wasn't just surviving, it was growing. The next morning, Adanna woke to a crash outside the shed. She bolted upright, her heart pounding, and rushed to the door. Her makeshift workbench was overturned, flour bags slashed open, and eggs smashed across the dirt floor. The chalkboard sign lay shattered, the words "Shed Sweets" barely legible. "No," Adanna whispered, her hands trembling. "No, no, no." Kamsi and Ezra appeared behind her, their faces pale. "Mommy, who did this?" Kamsi asked, her voice shaking. Before Adanna could answer, Bianca's voice cut through the morning air. She stood on the back porch of the main house, arms crossed, a smirk on her face. "Oops. Looks like someone doesn't like your little hobby." Adanna's blood boiled. She marched toward Bianca, stopping just short of the porch. "You did this, didn't you? You destroyed my work, my life." Bianca laughed, tossing her hair. "Prove it, Shed Girl. Maybe it was a stray dog. Or maybe you're just not cut out for this." Adanna's fists clenched, but she held herself steady. "You can break my table, Bianca, but you can't break me. I'll rebuild. And I'll be bigger than you ever dreamed." Bianca's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Keep dreaming. You're nothing, and you'll always be nothing." As Bianca sauntered back inside, Adanna turned to the wreckage. Her heart ached, but she wouldn't let this stop her. She knelt to salvage what she could, unaware that Mrs. Lola had been watching from her window. The older woman's phone was already out, recording the confrontation. By noon, the video was posted on a local community group on X, captioned, "This woman's husband threw her out, and now his mistress is sabotaging her bakery. Support Shed Sweets." The post exploded, racking up thousands of views and shares. Adanna, oblivious to the online storm, worked to clean up. Neighbors stopped by, offering flour, eggs, even a new table. "We saw the video," one said. "You're not alone." Adanna's eyes welled up. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what to say." The video brought more than sympathy, it brought customers. By evening, a line formed outside the shed, people buying loaves and leaving tips. Adanna's hands shook as she counted 15,000 naira, enough to replace her supplies and more. Bianca's cruelty had backfired, and Shed Sweets was stronger than ever. The following week, Adanna was kneading dough when a low rumble interrupted her thoughts. She stepped outside to see a sleek black SUV parked in front of the house, its tinted windows reflecting the morning sun. The same SUV had been there 2 days ago, idling for a few minutes before driving off. This time, the driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his graying hair cropped close. His eyes, sharp but kind, locked onto Adanna as he approached. Kamsi and Ezra peeked from the shed, whispering to each other. "Adanna," the man said, his voice deep and steady. "I'm Desmond, your uncle." Adanna froze, her mind racing. Uncle Desmond, her late father's older brother. She hadn't seen him since her father's funeral 10 years ago. "Uncle Desmond? Why are you here?" He smiled, but there was a weight to it. "I saw the video. The one of that woman destroying your work. It's all over the internet. I had to come." Adanna's cheeks burned. "You saw that? I didn't mean for it to." "Don't apologize," he interrupted, his tone firm. "You're fighting, just like your father did. I've been watching you from afar, Adanna. You've got his fire." She blinked back tears, unsure what to say. "I'm just trying to keep my kids fed." Desmond stepped closer, his voice softening. "You're doing more than that. You're building something. I want to help." Adanna shook her head. "I don't need charity, Uncle. I'm managing." "It's not charity," he said, pulling a card from his pocket. "I invest in businesses, luxury food, mostly. Your bread, your story. It's special. Let me help you grow." She took the card, her fingers trembling. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," Desmond said, glancing at the shed. "This place is a start, but you're meant for more." As the SUV pulled away, Adanna stood rooted to the spot, the card clutched in her hand. For the first time, she dared to dream beyond the shed. That evening, Adanna sat on the mattress, the kids asleep beside her. Desmond's card lay on the table, its gold embossing glinting in the candlelight. She'd called the number, and Desmond had invited her to his office the next day. Her mind churned with questions. Why now? What did he want? The next morning, she left the kids with Mrs. Lola and took a bus to Desmond's office, a sleek building in the city's business district. He greeted her warmly, ushering her into a plush office with a view of the skyline. "Adanna, sit," he said, gesturing to a leather chair. "We have much to talk about." She sat, her hands clasped tightly. "Uncle, why are you doing this? You barely know me." Desmond leaned back, his expression somber. "I knew your father better than anyone. He was my brother, my best friend. When he died, I promised to look out for you. I failed, until now." Adanna's throat tightened. "You didn't fail. I've been fine." "You've been surviving," he corrected. "But you're meant for more. I've built a business investing in people like you. People with heart, with grit. Your Shed Sweets. It's not just bread. It's a story, and the world loves a story." She frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll fund you," Desmond said. "A proper kitchen, staff, distribution. You keep your vision, your recipes. I'll handle the rest." Adanna's heart raced. "And what do you get out of it?" He smiled. "A share of the profits, yes. But more than that, I get to honor your father. He'd be proud of you, Adanna." Tears welled up, but she held them back. "I'll think about it. But I need to do this my way." Desmond nodded. "That's all I ask. You're his daughter, after all." As she left, Adanna felt a weight lift. The shed had been her cocoon, but Desmond's offer was a chance to soar. Over the next 2 weeks, Shed Sweets exploded. The viral video had turned Adanna into a local hero, and customers flocked to the shed, some driving from across the city. She couldn't keep up with demand, baking day and night until her hands cramped. Desmond's offer loomed, but she wasn't ready to leave the shed, not yet. With her earnings, she rented a small commercial kitchen nearby, a clean space with industrial ovens and gleaming counters. She hired 2 women, Amaka, a single mother, and Kechi, a widow, who'd heard her story and begged to join. "We're like you," Amaka said, her eyes shining. "We want to rise." Adanna trained them, sharing her recipes and her heart. The kitchen hummed with laughter and the clatter of pans, a stark contrast to the shed's solitude. Shed Sweets now supplied 3 cafes, including Cafe Aroma, and a supermarket had ordered a trial batch of mini cakes. One evening, as Adanna locked up the new kitchen, Mrs. Lola called her over. "You've got to see this," she said, holding up her phone. It was a post on X. "Shed Sweets is the taste of resilience. Support Adanna's dream." The post had 10,000 likes and counting. Adanna's eyes widened. "Lola, how is this happening?" "Because you're a star," Lola said, hugging her. "And stars shine brightest in the dark." Back at the shed, Adanna tucked Kamsi and Ezra into bed, her heart full. The shed was still home, but the kitchen was her future. Victor and Bianca had tried to bury her, but she was rising, faster, stronger, and unstoppable. The commercial kitchen buzzed with energy, the air thick with the scent of coconut bread and vanilla cakes. Adanna moved between industrial ovens, her apron dusted with flour, directing her small team, Amaka and Kechi, with quiet confidence. Shed Sweets was no longer a shed-bound dream. It was a city-wide sensation, supplying 5 cafes, 2 supermarkets, and a growing list of individual orders. The viral video of Bianca's sabotage had turned Adanna into a local hero, and customers lined up daily, some just to shake her hand. One morning, as Adanna packaged a batch of mini cakes, her phone rang. It was Mrs. Lola, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Adanna, turn on your TV. Channel 7 now." Adanna frowned, wiping her hands. "Lola, I'm in the kitchen. What's going on? Just do it." Lola insisted. "You're gonna want to see this." Adanna didn't own a TV, but Amaka pulled up the channel's live stream on her phone. The screen showed a popular food vlogger, Temi, known for her vibrant personality and massive online following. Temi stood in front of the shed, holding a loaf of Shed Sweets coconut bread, her smile radiant. "This," Temi said to the camera, "is where it all began." Shed Sweets, born in a tiny shed behind a house, is the story of Adanna, a woman who turned betrayal into brilliance. Her bread. It's not just food, it's hope. Adanna's jaw dropped. "How did she find me?" Kechi laughed, nudging her. "That viral video, Adanna. You're famous now." The segment cut to an interview inside the shed, filmed the previous day when Adanna had been at the kitchen. Temi sat on a crate, the shed's yellow walls glowing in the sunlight. "Adanna couldn't be here," Temi said, "but this place speaks for her. She was thrown out of her home, forced to live here with her kids, and instead of breaking, she baked. This shed is a testament to resilience." The camera panned to the chalkboard sign, now restored, and Temi took a bite of the bread, her eyes closing in delight. "This is the best coconut bread I've ever tasted. Lagos, you need to support Shed Sweets. This woman is a queen." Amaka turned up the volume as Temi shared Adanna's story, Victor's betrayal, Bianca's sabotage, the community's support. The segment ended with a call to action. Visit Shed Sweets. Buy a loaf. Be part of her rise. Adanna sank onto a stool, her hands trembling. "Millions watch Temi's show," she whispered. This changes everything." By noon, the shed was swarmed. Customers parked cars along the street, some holding phones to record the iconic yellow structure. A young woman bought a loaf and hugged Adanna, tears in her eyes. "I saw you on TV. You're an inspiration." Kamsi and Ezra, home from school, helped wrap orders, their faces beaming. "Mommy, you're a star," Ezra said, waving a mini cake like a trophy. Adanna laughed, pulling him close. "We're all stars, Ezra. This is our story." That evening, Temi herself arrived at the kitchen, her camera crew in tow. "Adanna, I had to meet you," she said, her voice warm. "Your story's gone viral, again. Can we film you here?" Adanna hesitated, then nodded. "As long as you show my team, too. Amaka and Kechi, they're family now." Temi grinned. "Deal. Let's make you a legend." The interview aired the next day, and Shed Sweets orders tripled overnight. Adanna's phone buzzed with messages from strangers, businesses, even a radio station requesting an interview. The Shed, once a symbol of her lowest moment, was now a beacon of triumph. Victor's world was unraveling. The bank had been auditing his accounts for weeks, whispers of fraud circling like vultures. He sat in his office, the air conditioner humming, but sweat beaded on his forehead. His phone buzzed with a text from Bianca, "Rent's due. Where's the money? You're slipping, Victor." He cursed under his breath, tossing the phone onto his desk. Bianca had been relentless, her demands growing as his savings dwindled. She'd moved into the main house, redecorated it with garish furniture, and spent his money like water. Now, with the audit looming, he couldn't afford her lifestyle, or his own. That morning, his boss called him into a meeting. The room was stark, the air heavy with tension. Mr. Okoye, a stern man with graying temples, slid a folder across the table. "Victor, we've found discrepancies. Transfers to unverified accounts, missing funds. Care to explain?" Victor's mouth went dry. "Sir, it's a misunderstanding. I can." "No excuses," Okoye cut him off. "You're suspended, effective immediately. If the investigation confirms fraud, you're done. And we'll press charges." Victor stumbled out of the office, his tie loosened, his mind a blur. He drove home, the weight of his choices crushing him. Bianca was on the couch when he entered, scrolling through her phone, her nails clicking against the screen. "You're back early," she said, not looking up. "Got my spa money?" Victor snapped. "Spa money?" "Bianca, I'm suspended. They're investigating me. We're broke." Bianca's head jerked up, her eyes narrowing. "Broke? You promised me a life, Victor. You said you had it handled." "I did," he shouted. "But you've been bleeding me dry. And now Adanna's out there, making me look like a fool with her stupid shed." Bianca laughed, cold and sharp. "Adanna? She's winning, Victor. Her face is on TV, and you're crying about a shed. You picked the wrong side." That night, Bianca packed her bags. Victor watched, helpless, as she loaded her things into a cab. "Where are you going?" he asked, his voice hollow. "Somewhere better," she said, slamming the door. He later learned she'd drained their joint account, leaving him with nothing but a maxed-out credit card. Victor sat alone in the house, the silence deafening. Adanna's success, plastered across TV and social media, mocked him. He'd thrown her out, thinking she'd crumble. Instead, she'd soared, and he was the one falling. 2 days later, Adanna stood in the commercial kitchen, reviewing a new contract with Café Aroma for 50 loaves a week. The shed was still home, but the kitchen was her empire's heart. She'd bought the house from Victor's landlord with her earnings, a quiet triumph she hadn't shared with anyone but Mrs. Lola. The papers were signed, the keys hers. The main house stood empty, a relic of her past pain. As she locked up the kitchen, a familiar figure appeared at the gate, Victor. He looked different, diminished. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his arrogance gone. He shuffled toward her, hands in his pockets. "Adanna," he said, his voice low. "Can we talk?" She crossed her arms, her heart a mix of pity and resolve. "What do you want, Victor?" He glanced at the house, then back at her. I messed up. The bank fired me. Bianca's gone. I've got nowhere to go. I just need a place to crash, just for a bit." Adanna's jaw tightened. She remembered the shed, the cold nights, the cruelty in his voice when he'd banished her. "You need a place," she said, her tone even. "Like I needed a place when you threw me out? When you laughed at my pain. Victor flinched, his hands rising defensively. I was wrong, okay? I'm sorry. You're doing well now. You can help me, right? Adanna stepped closer, her eyes steady. I am doing well, Victor. Because I fought for it. Because I didn't let you break me. This house? It's mine now. I bought it. But you don't get to walk back in like nothing happened. His face crumpled, desperation creeping into his voice. Adanna, please. I'm your husband. You stopped being my husband the day you chose Bianca, she said, her voice firm but calm. You made your choice. Now live with it. She turned to the gate, pausing to look back. The shed's empty. You're welcome to it. Victor's mouth opened, but no words came. Adanna walked away, her step steady, and gently closed the gate behind her. The sound of the latch clicking felt final, a door closing on her past. Back in the shed, Kamsi and Ezra were waiting, their faces bright with anticipation. Mommy, did you tell him? Kamsi asked. Adanna smiled, pulling them close. I didn't need to, Cam. He knows. As she tucked them into bed, the shed's yellow walls glowed in the candlelight. It wasn't just a shelter anymore, it was a symbol of her strength. Victor's fall was his own doing, but Adanna's rise was hers alone. And it was only the beginning. The commercial kitchen was a whirlwind of activity, the clang of metal trays and the sweet aroma of coconut bread filling the air. Adanna moved with purpose, her flour-dusted hands guiding Amaka and Kechi as they packaged orders. Shed Sweets had outgrown its humble origins, now supplying 7 cafes, 3 supermarkets, and a flood of individual customers. The viral video of Bianca's sabotage had transformed Adanna into a local icon, with people traveling across Lagos to buy her bread and hear her story. Mid-morning, as Adanna checked a batch of mini cakes, her phone buzzed with a call from Mrs. Lola. The older woman's voice crackled with excitement. Adanna, get to a TV. Channel 7, right now. Adanna wiped her brow, puzzled. Lola, I'm swamped. What's happening? Trust me, girl. Lola said. You're on Temmie's show. Hurry. Adanna didn't have a TV, but Nkechi pulled up the live stream on her phone, the small screen glowing in the bustling kitchen. Temmie, a vibrant food vlogger with 1 million followers, stood in front of the shed, its yellow walls bright under the midday sun. She held a loaf of Shed Sweets coconut bread, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Lagos, this is where magic happens, Temmie said, gesturing to the shed. Shed Sweets isn't just a bakery, it's a revolution. Adanna, a mother of 2, was thrown out of her home, forced to live in this shed with her kids. And what did she do? She baked. She built a brand from nothing. Adanna's heart stopped. Temmie was at the shed. When? Amaka grinned, nudging her. Yesterday, when you were here. Lola must have let her in. Look, you're a superstar. The segment shifted to an interview inside the shed, filmed without Adanna's knowledge. Temmie sat on a crate, the space lit by sunlight streaming through the open door. Adanna's not here today, Temmie said, but this shed tells her story. Her husband betrayed her, his mistress tried to destroy her, but Adanna turned pain into power. This bread. She tore off a piece, taking a bite. It's the best thing you'll ever taste. It's love, resilience, and a whole lot of coconut. The kitchen erupted in cheers, Amaka and Kechi clapping as Adanna stared at the screen, tears pricking her eyes. Temmie recounted the viral video, Victor's cruelty, and the community's support, ending with a rallying cry. Go to Shed Sweets. Buy a loaf. Be part of Adanna's rise. Millions watch Temmie, Nkechi said, her voice awestruck. Adanna, you're going global. By afternoon, the shed was a circus. Cars lined the street, customers clutching phones to snap photos of the now iconic search engine optimization, SEO, famous shed. A young man bought a loaf and shook Adanna's hand, his voice earnest. I saw you on TV. You're incredible. Adanna blushed, handing him a wrapped loaf. Thank you. It means a lot. Kamsi and Ezra, back from school, darted between customers, wrapping orders with pride. "Mommy, you're famous!" Ezra shouted, waving a mini cake. Adanna laughed, pulling him into a hug. "We're famous together, Ezra." That evening, Temi visited the kitchen, her camera crew trailing behind. "Adanna, you're a legend," she said, her smile infectious. "Can we film you here? Show the world the heart of Shed Sweets." Adanna nodded, her confidence growing. "Only if you include Amaka and Kechi. They're my backbone." Temi clapped her hands. "Love it. Let's make this epic." The interview, aired the next day, went viral, with Shed Sweets trending on X. Orders quadrupled, and Adanna's phone buzzed with messages from media outlets and fans. The Shed, once her prison, was now her crown, and the world was watching. Victor's life was a house of cards, and the wind was blowing hard. The bank's audit had uncovered his dirty secret. Siphoned funds, fake accounts, thousands of naira funneled to cover Bianca's lavish lifestyle. He sat in his car outside the bank, his hands gripping the steering wheel, his phone buzzing with another text from Bianca. "Where's my money?" "You're useless, Victor." He slammed the phone down, his jaw tight. Bianca had turned the house into her personal palace. New furniture, designer bags, nightly parties. His savings were gone, his credit cards maxed out. Now, the bank was closing in, and his world was crumbling. That morning, he'd been summoned to a meeting. The conference room was cold, the air thick with judgment. Mr. Okoye, his boss, sat across from him, a folder open on the table. "Victor, we've found transfers to unverified accounts. Over 2 million naira missing." "Explain." Victor's throat tightened, his voice hoarse. "It's a mistake, sir. I can fix it." Okoye's eyes narrowed. "No fixing this. You're fired. If the investigation confirms fraud, you're facing jail time." Victor left the bank in a daze, his tie undone, his arrogance shattered. He drove home, the weight of his failures suffocating him. Bianca was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, her nails tapping rhythmically. "You're early," she said, her tone bored. "Got my rent money?" Victor exploded. "Rent? Bianca, I'm fired. They're investigating me. We're broke." Bianca stood, her eyes flashing. "Broke? You said you were a big shot, Victor. You promised me everything." "I gave you everything," he roared. "And you spent it all. Now Adanna's on TV, making me look like an idiot." Bianca's laugh was icy. "Adanna's winning because she's better than you. You're a loser, Victor. Always were." That night, Bianca packed her bags, her movements swift and deliberate. Victor watched, his voice breaking. "Where are you going?" "Away from you," she said, zipping her suitcase. "I took what was left in the account. Good luck." The door slammed, and Victor was alone. He sank onto the couch, the house eerily quiet. Adanna's face was everywhere. TV, X, billboards. Her success was a mirror to his failure. He'd thrown her into the shed to break her, but she'd built an empire. Now he was the one with nothing. 3 days later, Adanna stood in the commercial kitchen, signing a new contract with a supermarket chain for 100 loaves a week. Her biggest victory, though, was silent. She'd bought the house from Victor's landlord, using her earnings to secure the deed. The keys were in her pocket, the house hers, a fortress reclaimed from her pain. As she locked the kitchen, a shadow moved at the gate. Victor. He looked like a ghost of himself, shirt untucked, eyes sunken, his swagger gone. He shuffled toward her, hands stuffed in his pockets. "Adanna," he said, his voice barely audible. "Can we talk?" She crossed her arms, her heart a tangle of pity and steel. "Talk about what, Victor?" He glanced at the house, then at her. "I screwed up. The bank fired me. Bianca took everything. I've got nowhere to go. I just need a place to crash. Please." Adanna's chest tightened. She saw the shed in her mind's eye, cold, dark, her children's tear-streaked faces. She heard his laughter, his cruel words. "You're a burden." Now, he stood before her, broken, begging. "You need a place," she said, her voice steady. "Like I needed a place when you threw me out? When you gave my home to her." Victor's shoulders slumped. "I was wrong, Adanna. I'm sorry. You're doing great now. You can afford to help me, right?" She stepped closer, her eyes unwavering. "I'm doing great because I fought for it. Because I didn't let you destroy me. This house." She gestured behind her. "I bought it. It's mine. But you don't get to walk back into my life like it's nothing." His face twisted, desperation spilling out. "I'm your husband, Adanna. Doesn't that mean anything?" "You stopped being my husband when you chose Bianca," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You made your bed. Sleep in it." She turned to the gate, then paused, looking back. "The shed's empty. You can have it." Victor's mouth opened, but no sound came. Adanna walked away, her steps deliberate, and closed the gate with a soft click. The sound was final, a chapter sealed. In the shed, Kamsi and Ezra waited, their eyes bright. "Did you tell him about the house?" Kamsi asked. Adanna smiled, pulling them close. "Didn't need to, Cam. He knows he lost." She tucked them into bed, the shed's yellow walls warm in the candlelight. It was no longer a place of shame but a monument to her strength. Victor's fall was his own making, but Adanna's rise was her masterpiece. The world was hers now, and she was just getting started. The streets of Lagos buzzed with the news of Shed Sweets, now a household name. Adanna stood outside her newest outlet, a sleek storefront in Ikeja, its glass windows adorned with the Shed Sweets logo, a stylized yellow shed with a glowing loaf. 2 more outlets had opened in Surulere and Lekki, each packed with customers chanting her name as they lined up for coconut bread and mini cakes. The commercial kitchen had expanded, now employing 10 women, all survivors like Amaka and Kechi, their laughter filling the space as they baked. Adanna adjusted the ribbon on the Ikeja store's door, her heart swelling. Kamsi and Ezra, dressed in matching Shed Sweets t-shirts, bounced with excitement. "Mommy, it's like a palace," Ezra said, peering through the window at the gleaming counters. Adanna laughed, smoothing his hair. "Not a palace, Ezra. A promise kept." Mrs. Lola approached, her headscarf as vibrant as her smile. "Adanna, you've outdone yourself. 3 stores in 6 months? You're unstoppable." Adanna hugged her. "Couldn't have done it without you, Lola. You believed in me when I was just a shed." Lola winked. "That shed was always a castle. You just needed to see it." As the ribbon-cutting ceremony began, a crowd gathered, phones flashing. Uncle Desmond, sharp in a tailored suit, stood beside Adanna, his presence a quiet anchor. "Ready?" he asked, handing her the scissors. She nodded, her voice steady. "More than ever." The ribbon fell, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Inside, customers flooded the store, grabbing loaves and snapping selfies with Adanna. A young woman, clutching a mini cake, grabbed her hand. "I'm starting my own business because of you," she said, tears in her eyes. "Thank you." Adanna's throat tightened. "Keep fighting," she said. "You've got this." That evening, as the store closed, Desmond pulled her aside. "You're building an empire, Adanna. But don't forget to rest. Your father would want that." She smiled, her eyes glistening. "I'm resting in my work, Uncle. This is my joy." The Ikeja store's success marked a turning point. Shed Sweets was no longer a story of survival. It was a movement, and Adanna was its heart. The Lagos Convention Center glittered under chandeliers, the air alive with the clink of glasses and murmurs of the city's elite. Adanna sat at a round table, her simple but elegant black dress a stark contrast to the sequined gowns around her. She'd been nominated for Rising Entrepreneur of the Year, an award that felt surreal after years in the shadows. Kamsi and Ezra, seated beside her, fidgeted in their formal clothes. "Mommy, do you think you'll win?" Kamsi whispered, her eyes wide. Adanna squeezed her hand. Win or lose, Cam, we're here. That's enough. Amaka, invited as her +1, leaned over. Enough? Adanna, you're about to take this city by storm. Look at this place. Adanna laughed, but her nerves churned. The MC, a charismatic woman in red, took the stage, her voice booming. Tonight, we honor those who defy the odds. Our next award is for the Rising Entrepreneur of the Year. The screen flashed images of the nominees, and Adanna's heart skipped as her face appeared, a photo of her in the shed, flour on her cheeks, smiling fiercely. The crowd murmured, some whispering her story. And the winner is... The MC paused, opening the envelope. Adanna of Shed Sweets. The room exploded in applause, and Adanna froze, her hands trembling. Kamsi tugged her arm. Mommy, go. She stood, her legs shaky, and walked to the stage, the spotlight warm on her face. The MC handed her the crystal trophy, its weight grounding her. Adanna, tell us your story, she said. Adanna took a deep breath, her voice clear. 6 months ago, I was thrown into a shed with my 2 children, told I was nothing. That shed, cold, dark, broken, gave me fire. I baked my first loaf there, not knowing it would lead to this. Shed Sweets isn't just a business. It's a promise to my kids, to every woman who's been knocked down. Thank you to my community, my team, my Uncle Desmond. She paused, her eyes finding Kamsi and Ezra in the crowd. And thank you to that cold, tiny shed for giving me the fire to rise. The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. Adanna stepped off the stage, the trophy heavy in her hands, and hugged her children tightly. You did it, Mommy, Ezra whispered. No, she said, kissing his forehead. We did it. The next morning, Adanna walked Kamsi and Ezra to their new school, a private academy with green lawns and bright classrooms. She'd enrolled them with her award prize money, fulfilling a promise made in the shed's darkest nights. Their new uniforms were crisp, their backpacks heavy with books. Cameras flashed as local reporters, tipped off by Lola, captured the moment. Mommy, why are they taking pictures? Ezra asked, squinting at the cameras. Adanna smiled. Because they see how strong we are, Ezra. Kamsi gripped her hand, her voice soft. You kept your promise, Mommy. You said we'd be okay. Adanna knelt, pulling them close. And we are, Cam. Better than okay. At the school gate, the principal, a kind woman named Mrs. Ade, greeted them. Adanna, your stories inspired us all. We're honored to have Kamsi and Ezra here. Adanna nodded, her heart full. Thank you. This means everything. As she watched her children run to their classrooms, waving back at her, Adanna felt a weight lift. The shed had been a crucible, but this, her children's bright future, was the reward. She walked home, the reporters trailing, her head high. Shed Sweets was her empire, but her kids were her heart. A week later, Adanna stood in the shed, now a preserved landmark outside her main house. A film crew bustled around her, setting up lights and cameras for a documentary about her journey. The director, a young woman named Ife, had pitched the project after the award night, wanting to capture Adanna's story for a global audience. Adanna, this shed is magic, Ife said, adjusting a light. We're starting here, then moving to the kitchen. You okay with sharing the hard stuff? Adanna nodded, her fingers tracing the shed's yellow walls. The hard stuff made me. I'm ready. The cameras rolled, and Adanna spoke, her voice steady. This shed was my lowest point. No heat, no light, just me and my kids. But it was also where I found my strength. Every loaf I baked here was a fight. Ife paused the shoot, her eyes shining. That's powerful. Can we bring in other women? Survivors like you, to share their stories. Adanna's face lit up. Yes. This isn't just my story, it's theirs too. The next day, Amaka, Nkechi, and 3 other women, each with their own tales of resilience, joined the shoot. Amaka spoke of leaving an abusive marriage, Nkechi of rebuilding after her husband's death. The shed became a stage for their voices, its walls echoing with hope. "Adanna gave us a chance," Amaka said to the camera, her voice thick. "Shed Sweets isn't just bread, it's family." As the crew wrapped, Ife hugged Adanna. "This is going to change lives. You're a beacon." Adanna smiled, looking at the shed. "It already has." Victor's life was a shadow of its former self. Jobless, broke, and living in a cramped rented room, he was a man unmoored. Adanna's success was inescapable, her face on billboards, her stores in every major district. One evening, he stumbled past the Acacia outlet, the Shed Sweet sign glowing like a taunt. A crowd gathered outside, drawn by a promotional event, and Victor snapped. He pushed through, his voice slurred from cheap liquor. "You all think she's special," he shouted, waving at the store. "I taught her everything. Shed Sweets? That was my idea." The crowd turned, some recording on their phones. A young man laughed. You're the guy who threw her out. Get lost." Victor's face reddened. "She's nothing without me. I made her." Mrs. Lola, in the crowd, stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You made her suffer, Victor. She made herself. Go home." The videos hit X within hours, trending under #ShedSweetSaga. Victor's meltdown outside Shed Sweets, pathetic, one post read, with thousands of likes. No one believed his claims, and the internet roasted him mercilessly. Victor watched the clips from his room, his hands shaking, the weight of his failure crushing him. Adanna stood in the Acacia store, unveiling a new product line, From Ashes, a series of spiced breads and cakes inspired by her journey. The slogan, "The best things rise from the fire," was emblazoned on every package. Customers packed the launch, their cheers echoing as Adanna cut a ceremonial loaf. Temi, the vlogger, was there, live-streaming to her millions of followers. "Adanna, this is genius," she said, holding up a From Ashes cake. "Tell us about it." Adanna smiled, her voice clear. From Ashes is for everyone who's been burned, by life, by love, by betrayal. It's a reminder that we rise stronger. Every bite is a piece of that fire. A customer, an older woman, raised her hand. "Adanna, I was in a bad marriage for 20 years. Your story gave me courage to leave. This bread, it's my victory, too." Adanna's eyes welled up. "Then it's yours. Thank you for rising with me." The launch was a triumph, with From Ashes selling out in hours. Adanna watched the crowd, her heart full. The shed had been her fire, and From Ashes was her phoenix. The sun set over Lagos as Adanna stood outside a new building, its sign reading Shed Sweets Foundation for Abused Women. The foundation, funded by her profits, offered shelter, training, and jobs to survivors. Today was its opening, and a crowd gathered, including Temi, Ife, and Desmond. Adanna held a pair of scissors, Kamsi and Ezra at her side. "Ready, kids?" she asked. "Ready!" they shouted, their hands on hers. The ribbon fell, and the crowd cheered. Inside, women already filled the training kitchen, their faces bright with hope. Adanna walked through, greeting each one, her voice warm. "This is your home now," she told a young woman named Funmi. "You're safe here." Desmond pulled her aside, his eyes proud. "Your father's smiling down on you, Adanna. This is his legacy, too." She nodded, tears falling. "And mine." As the ceremony ended, Adanna stood in the foundation's garden, watching Kamsi and Ezra play. She whispered to herself, "The shed was never a prison. It was the womb of my rebirth." Shed Sweets was her empire, the foundation her heart, and her children her future. Adanna had risen from ashes, and her light would guide others to do the same.